Buenos nachos, amigos. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. I am Peter Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me, as always, is my team of record people, record reviewers, people who like music, for the most part. We've got Patrick.
Hello.
We've got Drew.
Hate music.
And we've got Brett.
And the chicken tastes like wood.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this week we have a guest, as I announced last week. We have none other than a repeating guest, a returning champion. We have other than Bryce Castillo, Brycast, Neshcom, whatever you want to call him, the provider of the theme song of Halijuku. Wonderful dude. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys? It's been like 6 months or so since I was last on.
Something like that.
Since you brought us the wonders of 80 Kids.
Is this
80 Kids is so great.
Is this starting out like a confession? It's been about 6 months since my last confession. The usual when this became a Catholic church, but all right, let's do this.
I will dole out the Hail Marys and the prayers and the kneel downs after the show. But for now,
I have a rosary somewhere. I swear to God. I grew up Catholic.
So did I. So
I'm Italian as shit.
I'm Cuban as shit. So
Catholic growing up. Oh God.
But yes, we're here to talk about music, not Catholicism. And the provider of said music, oddly enough, is our guest, Bryce.
Yeah.
What do you got for us this week?
I have brought to you guys what I think might be my album of the year. It is Ryn Weaver's The Fool. It came out in June, and if you are kind of not familiar with the name, she last year released a really big song on the internet called Octahate, and she was working on this album with Michael Angelikos, the Passion Pit guy, and Benny Blanco, and a couple of other producers. And have put out this really interesting album. It's not flawless, but I think it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about expectations. Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I knew Bryce's sort of taste in music. So I was expecting something a bit more in the electronic realm. A bit more in the sort of dance music realm. Not expecting what we got, but we'll get into that.
Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I first want to counter Bryce's album of the year talk. Did you hear the new Slater-Kinney album that came out like second week of the year and has been the best album of the year for 11 months now?
I don't know who that is. Hey, high five, Bryce. High five.
Oh, clap.
There we go.
Yeah, that's.
Bryce, did you just do your own? I don't know her. Your own Mariah Carey. I don't know her.
I don't know.
I wear his boots.
I love that. Only Bryce and I know what that is. Yes, you were saying, Patrick.
I knew nothing coming in other than the last album Bryce brought us. I enjoyed, so I was open-minded and optimistic. I'll call it.
Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
What do y'all think? This isn't the kind of music that I normally go for in my regular listening. I really didn't know. Like from the name, I was expecting something completely different. I like judging books by their covers before I listen to them, because I was expecting something completely different. But knowing what we have been brought before, and knowing the
How so? Like what sort of genre were you?
I was expecting somebody from Europe, and I was expecting I was expecting EDM actually.
Interesting.
But just because, I by my gumshoe work was not good. I did not get either of those things, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes. But yeah, Bryce, how would you describe this album musically?
It definitely is not in the same vein as the 80 Kids album I brought last time I was on. It is I think of it as wonky pop, which I would say is whatever you consider Passion Pit to be, because Michael Angelikos is so heavy. His hands are so deep into the production that it's a very acoustic, sort of rustic sound, but with a very light digital touch on a lot of things. So an alternative pop sort of thing, but also it has a lot. The album is trying to do a lot of things, which is one of its biggest flaws. But in that, you have an album that goes a lot of places, and they all sound similar, or they all sound connected aesthetically.
Cohesive. Yeah. That makes sense. Drew, what would be some of the themes elements that caught your attention? How would you describe this album musically?
With sort of an album like this, when I was doing my research, as I started listening to this, she's a singer-songwriter. She billed it as like sort of a singer-songwriter. So when I see that, I think, okay, this is going to live or die by the vocals. The music might be a little bit light on like sort of musical depth, but it should be built well and produced well, but it should serve the purpose of sort of getting the singer-songwriter out there, right? And I think the music hit really well at spots and did exactly what it meant to do. Some of the rhythms, some of the melodies hit a bit better for me than others. The production on this record, I think, was really well done and really well placed. There was a good ebb and flow to all the songs. So I think the producers I found were Benny Blanco, Michael Angelikos, and Kashmir Cat. They deserve a mention alongside Miss Weaver here for making this record, because I think they did a really good job of mixing and sort of producing this record. But it lives and dies on the vocals, right? That's what I said. And I think that Ryn has incredible vocal control. She sort of hit every note that she set out to hit. She knew where her range was, and it's a pretty good range. And you can sort of tell the skill there by how well she can do that. I think good vocalists and great vocalists are sort of determined by if they do vocal swells, how well they do those swells, like within a note. And I looked up some live performances just to see if this was just studio masking or if she had the chops to back it up. She does. And it worked really well. It sets out, I think, what the goal of this record was to do. If you look it up, she has quotes saying that it's about being 22 and wondering if you should stay somewhere where you know you're safe and content and you've got good money and you're fine, or if you should try to venture out and do the new things and stuff. And like, she's experimenting a lot with this record, I think, or at least it sounds like it to me in spots. And I think it sort of highlighted that within her vocal talent.
Yeah.
I think she did really well with that. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, Patrick, what were the themes elements that caught your attention?
I'm saying this mostly based on the vocals than the actual music, but my initial first song was, what if Regina Spektor made fun, slightly dark indie pop music? Because the vocals are the tone of her voice and the way she enunciates is like a less foreign Regina Spektor. And I'm saying that as a compliment and as someone who really enjoys what Regina Spektor does. It's pop music, and it's sort of like the modern, taking sounds from all eras of pop music sort of sound, but it's a little different than what I'm used to. I love her voice. Her voice is different, and it doesn't sound like everyone else. And it isn't like terrible, crappy mainstream pop music voice. It's unique. It's good. It's quality. And I feel like the album is all about potential. It has a couple of like really, really high highs, and it makes you wonder, like, she's 22. What's next? Like, because there's something here. This is it's like the first signs of something that could get really big.
Yeah, definitely something interesting to see a young talent, and a young mind doing some creative stuff. Brett, what were the themes elements that caught your attention?
Well, I'm gonna echo a lot of what Drew had to say. Some of it. In my honest opinion, this is the most heavily produced album we've reviewed this year, and that's saying a whole lot.
Wow.
Was Lady Gaga in 2015? Did we review that in 2015?
No, that was last year. That was year one. But I even the little things about this album are produced to such a tight degree. There's some clapping that is done that has room echo. They're like there's sounds of water drops that have a certain slapback echo to them. It's almost like some of this album was put together like an EDM record. The way that the EQ builds, the flow of the song moves with the EQ in a way that a pop record normally doesn't. That's just based mainly off of dance. This isn't like a dance pop album like what's modern pop is now. It sort of fits in its little niche pretty well. The ambient sounds are very digitized, so you've got a lot of like crazy like synth stuff going on. But it's very very choppy. They even do a little bit like at the end of the album they even have like a bit of 60 cycle hum. The vocals themselves they're a little bit cracky, a little bit weak-kneed, and they're moody. They're less likely to hold a pitch than they'll move around more often than stay in one place. And that added a little unique feel to it, where now it's there's a sort of a resurgence in popular mainstream pop music for the big voice, the big large hold a note type thing, not like in the early 2000s where it was sing every note. This sort of is somewhere in between. The instrumentation overall is hard to really pinpoint because they've got like it's a spaghetti mess of so many things in the mix. But they do a really good job of incorporating, dropping it, and bringing it back up, and making a wall of sound that isn't so much that it's overwhelming to an ear that is probably not able to pinpoint all that stuff out and doesn't listen to things over and over like us weirdos. And the beat overall was great. It drove the music, but it wasn't like a constant dance feel. It sort of went and could move and could change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great way to kind of describe it. Bryce,
yeah,
what would be some of the key tracks that you would zero in on?
I think most people will probably gravitate towards Octahate or The Fool. Those are both the initial singles for the album, and they got these really big music videos. But they're also the most mainstream pop tracks. But beyond those, you have an entire landscape of great songs that are in totally that excel in a lot of different ways. But I would say Promises is also a really fantastic. It kind of has a almost feel good sound, but the with the lyrics, it's very self-critical and shows some real self introspection rather. I also think Free, the chorus on Free is so big. It's so big and loud and talking about the wall of sound, but also the way it flows directly into Traveling Song, which is the opposite, which is just trying to show off Ryn's vocal abilities. There's a great contrast between those two, and also New Constellations, which the ending of it, I like. I have this entire album in my everyday playlist, and I will sing along to every track, but especially New Constellations, just because of the like shouting at the end, just by the point where she's just yelling at the listener and herself to understand what it is that she really wants, and how to get satisfaction out of life. So I honestly think all of the tracks are great, but those especially are fantastic.
Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Not going to do the record breakers thing, but we'll come back to that and why. I'm going to start with Octahate. Loved Octahate. The weird thing is, I'm listening to the record for the first time through, and my thought when I got through is, oh wow, second track was really good. Like Bryce just said, I gravitated towards Octahate. And usually when I do that, for some reason in the back of my mind I go, I really like track 2. That's probably not going to be the single. Apparently I was wrong. Usually I end up liking like the weird song on a pop album that doesn't end up being the hit, and apparently I was way off base on that one.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm apparently hipping with it because I could pick out the single. I don't know. I'm not hipping with it. Sail On. Something about Sail On's beginning felt super 90s to me, and I can't place exactly why. But it like in the back of my head, it felt like it would fit in on like 90s radio. But as it built, it very much changed from that. And it built really, really nicely. It kept swelling throughout the track until it dropped off right near the end. And the funny thing about that drop off is you can hear the slight chuckle when it happens, almost like if she knew exactly what she was doing with that. And I appreciate that. But I'm going to go back. Like I said, we're going to go back and I'm going to do the record breaker thing. The first track, Runaway, was cool, and I liked it. There was stuff to be had there. But I always sort of harp on the first track is sort of your footing. If nobody's ever heard it before and you sit them down with a record and you say, listen to this, the first thing they're going to hear, that lead-in track, if it's not like some intro or something funny, it should be something that like leads you into the album and what you're getting into. And there was things on that song that I didn't hear ever again. Like, there was this manicness to the music. There was these vocal hits that she made that didn't feel like I heard them again. It sort of felt like it was removed almost from the rest of the record at points. And I think it was cool, but I don't know if that's the first track I would have led into. It was neat, but I would have put that towards the end as far as like the ordering goes. But I got into it and I was like, oh, this is different than what I expected of Bryce. And then it went into the rest of it and I was like, oh, okay, like this is okay. But like the first one just threw me for a loop. Like it wasn't what I was exactly expecting, I guess. So.
You know what's so weird about that is I feel like Runaway is in a perfect position in the album.
Really?
Because it and New Constellations reference each other and parallel each other lyrically. That's interesting. Not to mention that very beginning melody that she sings before the drums come in on Runaway is the same ditty that she hums at the end of Here Is Home, which is right before New Constellations.
Was that a toe tapping ditty?
Sorry,
I'm being an old man.
Isn't this the point we came in? But yeah, some interesting points. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'm gonna do the record breakers thing. I really liked Runaway. Runaway is a good intro track. So Drew wants the first track to grab him. I want the first track to tease me a little bit. I want the first track to be foreplay. I want the first track to hints at what I'm gonna hear and build up, and then the second and where you gotta grab me. But I'm also this type of person that wants to listen to an album beginning to end. And that's not a pop music thing, I think, sadly enough, anymore. Octahate. That is a great pop song. Like that is if you want to look up like if you're gonna pick like great pop songs of the last couple of years, that's on the short list. It's really good. I see why that became a hit for her, being literally at the time no one. She was just a girl who happened to know the right people to get, in a studio situation with people who knew how to produce. And she fucking knocked it out of the park on that one. And then sort of the album, it becomes it's a little uncohesive for me, but not necessarily in a bad way. Like you get a song, like I really like Traveling Song, which is like kind of a folk song in a sea of pop. And like me being what's next? She's, in her early 20s and has a voice and has a little bit of momentum. Should she full on embrace the kind of poppy folk thing? Because there has been some success in that sort of arena recently, for better or worse, and she does it really well, and she knows how to write songs, which basically all of her, competitors in terms of young women making music right now and pop music, most of them don't write for shit. I mean, even someone like Adele will self-admit she's not a great songwriter. She's a great vocalist. Ryn is a very good vocalist and appears to be a pretty okay songwriter, which is, a lot to have. And I think her next album needs one producer beginning to end. That's kind of where I'm at. It's, this album, like you can tell many hands were in it and some very good songs came out of that, but I want to see what would happen with a cohesive, 10 or 12 songs all sort of in the same team, sounding kind of the same thing. And I'm not sure whether it should be more towards the pop side of this or more towards the sort of weird folky thing that got happening. But yeah, it's again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. It's all potential. Like this is like, you're wondering how you follow this up, because this is if this is your first record, if you can improve on this, you're going to end up doing something really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how she pivots, as one Brett Hedberg would say. Speaking of Brett, what were some of the key tracks for you?
Well, I just want to bring something up that is not indicative of what my feeling on this album is, but I just looked up this statistic. This album sold 13,800 units in its first week, and it debuted number 30 on the Billboard 200. If that doesn't tell you about the music industry as a whole, or the Billboard 200 and its ability to rank the up and coming stars, yeah, that's scary. I think like Drew has probably sold 13,000 albums.
No.
But
I don't know if we've sold 10.
1,000 or 10.
Hold on. No. On our last show, we sold 30, and that's all I think we ever sold.
I think let me call Billboard up and argue with them.
We might be able to get a top 300 spot.
Adult contemporary ska,
Yeah.
But no, I'm gonna pick some tracks that you guys didn't get into. I could go through just about any of the tracks on this album to really pinpoint the things that I pulled out. I'm gonna go with Pierre. This is the song that really stood. Yes, it's Lucky. This is the song that stood out to me. Anytime you start a song off, the little cues, hit the sustain pedal on a piano, hang out in the lower registers, layer in some vocals, and like the drums, they sounded like they were being mic'd from the other room, and in the middle of the song they just drop the EQ. They have this little I'm a fan of like the weird noise. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm the Vibroslap Cowbell Claves fan du jour. No, But no, they had a
still
sound.
waiting on word on that spring.
I'm sorry, the sproing. I have no clue where that sproing came from. Email me it's Mr. Green. But no, there's a rattle in that track that sounds like a cowbell that still has the clapper in it. That's the thing that's inside of bells. But I don't know what that is. But that was used to great effect. In overall, like the amount of reverb they put on the different layers was like it was weird. They did it in like different. It wasn't like straight up. This is the slapback. But overall, the vocals were sounding like they were like recorded inside of a brick walled studio apartment. And it was done to effect just enough before it became like this messy soup covered in honey. Which again, it was an absolute mess of things. I'm sure when they were mixing everything down. And I don't know how they did it because there's so many little things that I couldn't even hear. On this album, I went and tried to find the best bit rate that I could find, and I sat in a quiet area with my headphones on, try and pinpoint all the weird noises because that's kind of my thing. But there was all kinds of stuff. Like on the next track, Stay Low, they had reverse reverb and a slow dance beat over phasing organ. Like they were drawing this organ in and out of phase, it was just really, really cool. But it didn't sound like something that was junk that they found in the storage area of the studio. It was really well put together, like it was made for this. And then there was like the vocal track had this sort of short and muted bursts that sounded like somebody hitting like a kalimba, like the little handheld thingy. Just really, really fast, and I don't know how they did that. I'm going to have to listen to that a whole lot more. Or, Mr. Green, you can email me if you know how to do that too. Again, I could go on just the production level and the way that they brought in so many little things. Like even they brought a drop of water and put it in there just enough for me to be like, okay, that's cool. But then they do something. And then they wouldn't do it again. Like it was very neat how they put everything together.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's bring it back around the horn. Let's talk about some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what will be your conclusive thoughts on the album overall?
Well, this is sort of a weird one for me, as I alluded to in the pre-show, the guys. It was really well done. Like musically, it was fantastic. Like. Everything was well pieced together. The vocalist is the thing you don't get very much in pop vocals right now, which is just working off of talent. I think there is a reason somebody like Adele has sort of grabbed people. It's because it's the talent now, which you didn't see for a long time, getting really pushed. And she's a talented vocalist. The style is interesting. This album wasn't necessarily my cup of tea all the way through. There are parts that I liked a lot. But Brett made the joke earlier. It's not the toe tapper. What it did do is perk my ears up. And I think to myself, okay, there's something here. There is a level of talent here. There is a level of understanding of music and how it's pieced together, in whether it be her songwriting skills coming through, the people she has around her, and the group that she's sort of cultivated to help her make music. Something there is very good at making music, very good at the compositional skills. So Swagger said it. What comes next is she's 22, she knows she has a voice, and she wants to make music and she has something to say. When you're making your first steps in the music, sometimes it can be a little bit here and there and everywhere because you want to do so much. And then there can be a pivot that can make it better, or it can make it worse. Mm-hmm. And I really want to see where the pivot happens, because while this record as a whole is not going to get regular play from me, it might add Octahate or Sail On right next to all my child actor stuff. But while the whole album's not going to get play, when I hear the next album come up from this name, it's something I'm going to take notice of and I'm going to make time for. So,
would you say
if that
she's
says
got
anything about it,
would you say she's got good upside?
indeed, she's got a good
She's a blue
musical
chipper.
IQ.
Yes, musical IQ.
What other sports commentary can we use?
Patrick, what would be your overall thoughts on this album?
A lot of what Drew said, sort of about what's next, and the fact that I'm actually going to probably seek that out. Some part of me likes female pop music, like female sung pop music. I have listened.
Don't say.
Nah.
No,
You're full of shit.
no. I have listened to the new Carly Rae Jepsen album more than I should have, and
It's so good though.
It has
great.
good songs. I don't know if
It
I
does
call
have
the
good
whole
songs.
album good,
It's not,
but it has good songs.
the good songs are great.
Yes, it has great songs. I don't know if it's a great album.
Which bad song was she known for again? She was the Call Me Maybe girl, right?
Yes, and Call Me
Okay.
Maybe has a fucking fantastic vocal melody. I will defend the vocal melody. of
no.
Call Me Maybe.
It is hooky as shit.
No, but it's not just hooky. It's not what you would expect of like a vocal melody of a pop song to be. It does something slightly bit different, and I like it.
Woo, woo, we're off the rails here. Woo,
Yes.
I'm loving
Ryn
this.
Weaver.
But Ryn Weaver. So now I have someone who is a female pop person to follow and see what happens next, because there's some good here. There's a lot of
Gold in them there,
intangibles.
Hill?
There's gold in them there, Hills. There's intangibles to use more sports references.
She has great intangibles.
She has great intangibles, yes.
She's a young talent with great intangibles and a lot of upside.
Exactly what PD said, so I'll leave it at that.
These are real terms that sports commentators use.
Yes.
Yes,
God.
it's
we can
awful.
we can go down like if this was a mock draft, like
We could do it. We're the FSL tonight.
I
We're the
think
people who
she's a
get FSL
solid
tonight.
mid-first round pick.
Understand that there's a reason why that show is funny. It's because a lot of sports radio talk is a lot of bullshit terms that leave the host unaccountable for anything they say. Because they just talk about intangibles, people wanting it more, desire. They don't talk about, actual, physical abilities or statistics or...
if we're off on this rail, there's a great clip that I will give you later that's Mark Cuban literally yelling at a sports commentator about being fucking terrible at his job. It's amazing.
I want to hear that.
Yes,
I would
So
love to
good.
hear that.
yes. Like intangibles. Intangibles is something you can say because it's unaccountable.
Because it's literally a word for things you can't quite explain.
He's
that
got
are,
stuff. He's got that.
that
it
are
factor.
inherent in a person.
But that being said, somebody with intangibles, Brett.
I got stuff. I got stuff. This album, I mean, it's a wall of sound, and it's woven together with such skill that even somebody wearing a shitty pair of $15 earbuds wouldn't get it. It's not to the point of dissonance. That takes skill. There's so much going on that can be missed. That they made the album so that it didn't have to be in your face, but if you dug deep enough, you could get there, and I respect that. Is this something that I'm going to listen to? Probably not. Is that a bad thing? No, I have bad taste. Everybody knows that. If you're looking for something that is a slice of something fresh in a music scene that is sort of that it's in a subgenre of a music scene that a lot of people don't even dip their toes in. This might be something for you. If nothing else, this might be a cool time capsule to hang on to, because this might be a subculture that ends up like Euro pop from the 80s with synthesizers and stuff. This might be a thing that you don't get a whole lot of. So enjoy if you got it. And I'm definitely going to be waiting to see what comes from this act. It's a real humdinger. I think that there's there is gold in them there hills, and I'll probably, one of these guys will tell me when that happens. So
Yes.
More on that at 11.
Yes. But yeah, finally, Bryce, what would be your conclusive thoughts on the album?
Man, I have a lot of love for this album. When everybody started talking about the expectations for the album, and that it was something that they would have considered outside of probably what they would expect me to fawn over and want to present to you guys. Part of that is the charm of why I love it, because if it weren't as well made, if it weren't as well executed, if it weren't as well sung or written, it would probably be more forgettable than it is. But maybe it's because the lyrics, which I have I've connected with on some levels of being young and not necessarily knowing where you're going or how you want to just proceed in life. But also, and you know what? Again, female pop music is also a big thing of mine. Breaking news. So, it when it's good, it's not exactly a tough sell. But even there was a point when I was initially listening to it, right after it came out, where I realized how cyclical the entire album is, how much it references back to itself. And as presented, tells its own meta narrative. I mean, because I also similarly looked up live videos of Ryn, and at Bonnaroo right after the album came out, she had performed the album almost track for track in order as it is on the album, because this is the track list that makes sense, I think, and tells the story probably the best way it can. It's all over the place with the theme, with the theming and the musical aesthetics. I mean, to go from a 2014, 2015 sort of pop song to a fucking Stevie Nicks is a very large spectrum to be running across. But when part of the album is being indecisive, I think that you can forgive that partially. You can forgive some of the inconsistency.
But does she see her reflection in the snow-covered hills? I shouldn't ascribe a cocaine problem to her. But that being said,
I need some lace, everybody.
yes. That being said, wonderful thoughts. Now we go to our main event of the evening, our haiku review.
Main event, everybody.
Yes. We've diverted a lot. We need to get back on track. Get to our haiku reviews. Let's get started. Drew, what's your haiku?
Me? I can't really tell what my true feelings are, but no hate from me.
Brett, what's your haiku?
It's my first go round. More than an indie darling. Let's see where this goes.
I'll throw mine in. Ambitious intent, does some interesting things, does most of them well. Best I could do. All right.
I love it. I love it.
Patrick, what is your haiku?
A solid debut, in search of a direction, lots of potential.
Bryce, what is your haiku?
A mixed bag of thoughts. Do you want freedom or not? Times a flat circle.
Interesting.
Little True Detective shout out there.
That being said, those are our thoughts on Ryn Weaver's The Fool. Go out and check it out on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers The Home Game, which is literally the name of the playlist. Record Breakers The Home Game. On Spotify. On that Spotify playlist is next week's album, which I mentioned last week. Is going to be Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power. Just want to throw this in there since last week was the anniversary of Dimebag Darrell's death. I didn't get
and
emotional.
It's very, very similar to the album we reviewed today.
Yes.
Many, many ways.
Yes.
And I wish Bryce could come back and review that album with us. I think he'd have a lot to say about the entire album.
My God.
My God. But that being said, that's going to be an interesting discussion. Look forward to that next week. But that's next week, and this is this week. That's all for us. Of course, you can find us all over the internet. Patrick is at The Swagger. Brett is at HeyBittyBaber at HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at Extrusive4X. I'm at PD Rave. Bryce is at Brycas, BRYCAS. You can also check out neshcomplex.com. Neshcomplex.com for all of his stuff. Do you have anything going on that you want to go ahead and promote?
I do. I am trying to make more music more often. It came to the end of the year and I realized, I haven't made any music this year. So I'm trying to do a lot of live streaming, and as a part of it, I'm trying to do music live streaming, making music live. And in fact, last week, I had about a 4 or 5 hour live stream. I made a song and I remixed it, and that song is now up on Spotify and all the music streaming and stores and stuff. So if you want to catch my live stuff, that's really what I'm trying to push right now. Go to twitch.tv/Brycas or just check me out on diamondclub.tv. I'm trying to do like almost every day. Like I'm not doing one today because I'm on this, but a little bit every day. And if you like my music and you want to watch it get done live, hey, check that.
Yes, do that. Do just that. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com is the email. Rebelli.net, Rebelli TV on YouTube. Subscribe, like, share, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Now back to
Say
Mr.
long.
Cecil.